Welcome to the exciting rebirth of Superstar, featuring choose your membership rate as low as just $3 a month. At Superstar, you get expanded, exclusive video scopes each and every week, unlimited access to special horoscopes, class passes for Synchronicity University, consultations with me, and so much more. All of this in the Superstar space. I look forward to meeting you there. Hello, fabulous friends, fans, and superstars. Welcome to your horoscope for the week of November 6, 2022. I am your astrologer, Nadiya Shah. Thank you for being here. It is a remarkable astrological week, without a doubt. Big moves happening in the sky now. And the very big news, of course, is Tuesday's lunar eclipse. This lunar eclipse takes place in the sign of Taurus and is hand in hand with Uranus, which becomes a defining characteristic of this time, but I would also say this year as well. If you think back 6 months ago, we had a series of eclipses. Again, Uranus was activated. And if you think back to the end of July and beginning of August, that was when we had the North Node meeting Uranus and Mars, an activating principle, lighting the way as well. These particular windows do represent times of heightened awareness of karmic direction. Sometimes that direction is an appreciation of what could be coming up. Sometimes that karmic direction represents healthy closures, knowing what it is that has served its purpose in your life so that now you can make space for the new and the next and the exciting. It is an awareness of all there is that you might have yet to do in this lifetime and the absolute joy of the journey. You know, I was thinking about how this energy of Uranus is so closely associated with love in a way that isn't always appreciated. And I was also thinking about how every sign represents a different expression of love and a different expression of freedom as well. Love means different things to different people, and freedom means different things to different people as well. But I think the ancients understood that there was a link between the two. That in order for love to flourish, to even be possible, a part of the necessary condition was the freedom to love, or the freedom to honor, or at least acknowledge the desire that you do have, and so much more. It's the freedom of agency that makes love that much more valuable. And so the energy of Taurus is an embodied love. It is what Socrates called earthly Aphrodite. And this is a love that is sensual and is rooted in the senses. It is a love that says you can be present for it in your embodied and lived experience. And it is through the senses that you become aware that love feels practical. It feels more real. With Uranus, though, meeting this eclipse with such precision, it takes on a more dominant role. And it is Uranus that forms the foundation of love herself, love embodied, Venus. And so if you read my book, Prayers to the Sky, you know I love exploring the origin myths of the different planets and energies, because I do believe that they are a part of us. And it is in cultivating that personal relationship that not only do we get to know ourselves more fully, but we also are able to cultivate our practice in astrology that much more fully as well, making it more rewarding by making it more personal. In the origin story of all the planets, we have the maternal principle, which is Gaia, which is the earth, and the parental figure principle, which is Uranus, the sky god. And these two getting together gave birth to other deities, including Saturn, who would in turn give birth to or provide the seed to the energies of Jupiter and Neptune and Pluto and so much more. And so we can see here that the ancients understood that at the foundation of all of these different sacred energies is freedom and the earth, is sky and embodiment. And so what happened was Uranus wasn't a very good husband. Gaia really didn't like him, wanted to get rid of him. She went to her kids and said, hey, help me out, help me get rid of your dad. It was Saturn who accepted in exchange for having greater status among the different gods and sacred energies. And so while Uranus was sleeping, Saturn went and removed the testicles of Uranus and threw them into the sea. As soon as Uranus's testicles hit the sea, foam began, energy grew, and from that foam emerged Venus, goddess of love. I find it so interesting that this association between Uranus and Venus, this association between freedom and love, is something that isn't often explored. We think of Venus as, yes, goddess of love and pleasure and beauty, as the embodiment of the sensual journey, but also Venus as the embodiment of higher principles of love. And we necessarily understand that that would be an experience that is lived. Again, it's an embodied experience. But it is Uranus that represents pure thought, air, and ideas. It represents flashes of insight that can feel as if they come on like thunder, unexpected but very clear, unannounced, but once they are here, they are loud. That is the very nature of brilliance and epiphany. Yes, we can set the necessary conditions, but ultimately, in many ways, some of the brightest ideas we're going to have are going to feel like they come on out of nowhere, but are also undeniable. It is Uranus that lies at the root of and is the seed of the very embodiment of love itself. Now, Venus is the ruling planet of Taurus. And so there's this natural correspondence between the two. And then you add how active Uranus is now. I think a lot of us in our own unique journeys are having an understanding of what it is to more fully embody love by allowing the freedom principle in, by understanding that unless there is true agency where it comes to love, love really means not nearly as much. It is when we choose to love that it is that much more valuable. It has been many philosophers that have pointed out this incredible contradiction that lies where it comes to understanding whom it is that we desire in a partner. And so we do, on the one hand, want a love that feels sort of divinely ordained, that feels karmic, that feels pre-written, if you will. And so from that perspective, it is love that doesn't necessarily involve choice. It just is. It existed before we were aware of it. And once having met this person where love truly is, this is so evident. It becomes so obvious that this is where love is to be for the rest of our lives. But at the same time, and the contradictory principle here is that we also want to feel chosen. We want to feel as if there was something special about us that made this other person want to be with us, something they responded to that makes us stand out in some way. And that very specialness within us makes us that much more special to them. And so when we consider the concept of twin flames, it has within it this inherent understanding that there is only one other, an exact mirror, exactly alike. And yet it is Uranus that holds a certain universal principle as well. And I think that's why Uranus is, in addition to many other things, some of which we've talked about so far, it is also an energy that corresponds to equality and human rights, for example. There is an understanding that at the level of intellect, at the level of mind, there is equality, that ideas can be judged on their own merit, and the ideas that we bring as individuals can be seen in and of themselves outside of what otherwise may be there that the world might judge us based on. Venus being such an embodied energy, yes, it may feel as if there are times when the world judges us based on appearance, for example, and how pleasing that appearance is, which ultimately can be very trendy, as we know as well. And so there is this sense, this interesting tension here inherent in this eclipse energy, but it's also the other planetary connections that are happening with this eclipse that really make it a standout, important moment for many of us out there. We have opposite this eclipse, the Sun, the South Node, Mercury and Venus close together in the sky now, essentially following each other's footsteps, mirroring each other's alignments that they're making with other power players in the sky as part of this eclipse energy as well. And so if you think about it, Venus standing across the sky from this eclipse, along with Mercury, we've got the principle of love and intellect, and the Sun, the principle of specialness, and the South Node, the principle of understanding healthy closures as part of aligning with a journey towards greater love and greater wisdom, as part of fulfilling more of the promises that you made to yourself, that what you would do with this lifetime, what is the intention behind this incarnation? Well, in order to align with that more fully, sometimes it is about welcoming in the new and the next. That's the North Node. But sometimes it's also about accepting what it is that has served its purpose as part of cultivating genuine enthusiasm for what there is yet for you to do in this lifetime, as represented by the South Node. And then this eclipse is a lunar eclipse. So again, this idea of closures, an innate part of the new and the big changes that could be taking place for a lot of us out there. Now, the fact that we have Venus, Mercury, the Sun, the South Node, opposite Uranus this week, opposite the eclipse, it does suggest that it is as a result of our interactions with other people, especially those one-on-one interactions that serve as a touchstone, an anchor point, if you will, that serve as the vehicle with which some very profound lessons can occur. Now, ultimately, the lessons and the changes we make, how much we're willing to embrace what truth is emerging, that is going to be uniquely our own choice and a part of our own unique journey. But it is going to be other people that in some way mirroring something within us that is going to be part of helping us to understand who we are, but also importantly, whom it is that we no longer are, whom it is that we are not anymore. It is fascinating to think of how it is that if we live a full life, chances are we are going to go through certain transformations, ways in which we strongly identified, we thought, this is who I am. They don't work for different phases of our lives, and thankfully so. This is what growth necessarily entails, redefining oneself from time to time. And yet through it all, there are certain core attributes that may always be there or feel like they represent a continuous and consistent thread throughout a lifetime. And having this understanding of where it is that we now are ready for a new self-definition, but also what remains at the core of us that remains unchanged, I think it's going to be our interactions with others that are going to be part of pointing the way. I do believe that many of us are likely to have the experience of seeing something that we strongly identified with reflected in another person, someone who supposedly is supposed to share certain attributes of our identity, and we see how it is that they embody it in a way that helps us to realize how we might actually look to ourselves. that helps us to realize that really that isn't the way we want to identify anymore. And this can take on all kinds of conceptualizations and realizations at this time. Because so many power players are a part of the energy now, I do think much of this week, the first part of the week certainly, has its share of energy that might feel uncomfortable or frustrating or even shocking and surprising before we reach that point of wisdom and compassion and inspiration as well. The eclipse is speaking in harmony with Neptune, which I think is part of the saving grace at this time, but it's also speaking in a conversation of tension with Saturn. With all these placements across the sky from the eclipse, it essentially sets up what astrologers call a T-square, which is a larger configuration of tension and activity and motivation as well. We want whatever we're feeling now to count for something. We want it to change our lives in real ways and not just stay an idea or a feeling. And this furthers the affirmation of how important the embodiment of transformation is going to mean for us, how important the embodiment of freedom and love and understanding them as deeply connected, how much that's going to mean for us, that we want that to count for something in how it changes our lives now. The energy of this T-square can make this time feel frustrating, but also powerful as well. Squares ultimately do represent points of power in how they provide motivation. It no longer is an option to do nothing. And as a result of doing something, we're able to make gains, which can show up at this time. But with Uranus, there are factors that we don't necessarily control, and finding acceptance of that is also how we move in a positive direction. And so, as Venus, Mercury, and the Sun stand across the sky from the eclipse, they are also standing across the sky with precision from Uranus as well, bringing those surprise insights, that mirror that we didn't expect, that feels a little disorienting before we are able to appreciate the wisdom that the moment brings. And the T-square to Saturn, frustration, a desire for our lived experience to be different so that we can manifest something different. We can manifest a reality where we're able to honor what love and freedom are uniquely to us. It is as we get later in the week, over Thursday and Friday, that we begin to have first Venus and then Mercury reach out in supreme harmony to Neptune, essentially activating that harmonious Neptunian energy linked to this eclipse. And that is when we find bliss and compassion and insight and an easy wisdom that allows love to come forward, directed towards ourselves, directed towards our circumstances, and of course, towards each other as well. As frustrating as some of the energy can be in the early part of the week, and I do want to be straightforward about that, there are going to be challenges there as we're looking at some difficult truths. And yet it is those very truths that are needed if love is to be genuine. We get to that love before the week is even out. We start to experience the ease that love can sometimes represent, but that only comes after having done the inner work that change sometimes requires. Change is something that is ultimately always good, although we resist it. It always comes with some sense of challenge, or I would even say for a lot of us, often comes with a sense of discomfort or a sense of pain, until it is that we reach a flow. And once we reach that flow, that really is a flow of blessings that we allow into our lives. But that only happens after we accept that there is change happening. And even if we don't know what's on the other side of it, we know that and we trust that it's leading us somewhere good, especially when it is that we do our own part to participate in that very valuable transformation in the direction of our most authentic self. What I love about this week for us, well, look, there's so much here. It's a powerful astrological moment. That eclipse energy is something that we all are going to feel throughout the week, because it isn't just about the eclipse that happens on Tuesday, but how that eclipse is activating other power players, but then how those power players, in particular Venus, Mercury, and the Sun, end up furthering the conversation of the eclipse is a notable characteristic of this time. On the one hand, we are going to have the squares of Saturn. Yes, there is that larger T-square with the eclipse, but it is also going to be first on Monday with Venus, and then over the course of Tuesday and Wednesday with the Sun and Mercury. These planets are going to connect with Saturn with precision. Where it comes to the oppositions, the activation from Uranus, it was at the end of last week that we had Venus standing across Uranus, and this week it's going to be over Thursday and Friday where it's the Sun and Mercury. And in the midst of it all, that beautiful, harmonious Neptunian energy starts to kick in over Thursday and Friday thanks to Venus and Mercury. The Sun will have its moment once we step into next week as well. And ultimately, all of this says that don't think of this eclipse as a singular moment. It's unlikely to be that. We might have a moment that feels like it comes out of nowhere, delivering insight and understanding, where it feels as if some truth has visited us with thunder and lightning. And yet, how we make sense of it, how we glean wisdom from it, is ultimately what helps us to make the most of this time. And by making the most of this time, we get to tap into the best that Uranus can be, which is ultimately about the freedom that comes from living authentically. Making the choice to do so is a profound form of love that we give to ourselves and to others as well. Well, thank you so much for watching. What do you love about this week? Let me know in the comments below. I love reading you guys. And to prove it to you, here are some of my most recent favorite comments. Thank you to everybody who likes, who comments, who subscribes, who shares, who thumbs up. All of it means so much. I'm truly so grateful for it. And of course, if you want to know how all this wonderful stuff this week speaks to you in your sign, log on to NadiyaShahSuperstars.com, where you get expanded, exclusive video scopes each and every week for each and every sign for as low as just $3 a month with choose your membership rate. And higher tiers get you things like all access passes to Synchronicity University events, consultations with me, and so much more. All of this in the Superstar space at NadiyaShahSuperstars.com. Link is in the description below. Synchronicity University presents some truly incredible programs that are happening right now. And just to let you know, we've got some amazing announcements coming up very soon as well. But look, you can now sign up for single classes with these incredible programs, which include an amazing speaker series. It includes the part of fortune explored over 5 classes with Yuriria Robles, and it includes classes with Stormie Grace, the one and only Stormie Grace, teaching on business and the various ways in which you can use astrology towards your business success. It is this November that you can join single classes, decide what's right for you, and sign up for them as well. And I hope that you'll join us. We've got some incredible speakers. So let me start with the speaker series, because earlier this week we had Sabrina Monarch talking about teaching on Eros and Psyche as asteroids in astrology and in myth. I loved talking to her here on my YouTube channel at Synchronicity Web TV. I learned so much, and her class was absolutely brilliant. There was no surprise there. And so you can now purchase that class as a single download. This week, Aquila Moon will be with us, representing another way to understand love through Venus and Mars, through the signs and the houses, love, lust, desire. And so all of this preparation for love, well, make sure that you direct some of that love towards yourself as well. We've got incredible speakers coming up this November. And again, join us for Yuriria Robles with the part of fortune, a 5-part exploration. But again, get the single classes, join us. And of course, Stormie Grace, You can't go wrong with Stormie Grace. She's absolutely brilliant always. And thank you. Thank you so much for watching. I apologize so sincerely for the delay in this video. Thank you for your patience and your love and your positive energy and your good vibes. I'm not totally 100, and yet I'm telling myself that I am. And I'm here with you. And I never, ever take it for granted, your love, your trust, your viewership, you being a friend, a fan, a superstar, a student. Just thank you. Thank you for all of that, for seeing me as some part of your sacred journey. I know that it is a privilege, and I'm so very grateful for it. Thank you. And thank you again for watching. It'll be a great week. Enjoy.